good morning. I hope you are doing well. Today, I am going to talk about a very important analytical tool, pivot table. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the pivot table. So, what is pivot table? It is an interactive summary report from large datasets. I repeat, interactive summary report from large datasets. It can dynamically reorganize data and calculate or aggregate data by different categories or fields. Don't get confused too much by these heavy words. We will understand this better when we go through the demonstration. What it does is that it turns raw data into instantaneous actionable insights. There are no formulas needed, and you only need to drag and drop. Now, what are the benefits of pivot table? The first one is that it saves a lot of time. You can automate your data summarization and you can link your table or source directly with the pivot table, and you can refresh the pivot table to generate instantaneous summarization. It increases accuracy because there are no formula or calculation required, hence, there are no chances of errors. Definitely, because it is summarization and it is instantaneous, it improves the decision making and it also reveals hidden trends which otherwise would have been hidden under the large amount of data. It enhances reporting and it creates professional and dynamic and good looking reports. So let's check how it works in Excel. I am in my Excel right now, and what you see on your screen is 2024 sales data. Let me introduce the data to you first before creating the pivot table. This data is for 2024 for multiple states. There are 867 rows of data for states like Delhi, Gujarat, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and so on. Each state is divided into different regions. There are different product categories and different brands of products. So if you are a analyst at a store like Vijay Sales or any other good store, this could be a very relatable data where you have stores in multiple states, in multiple regions, and different products are getting sold in those stores by different brands. I hope you understand the data well now. Now let's move on the objectives, that what is it that we want to achieve by creating the pivot tables. So let's suppose your senior leadership, your management or your boss, they gives you one objective to analyze revenue and quantity sold across different states and regions to identify high performing areas. And there is another objective to evaluate how different brands contribute to quantity sold within each product category. Let us address both of these objectives one by one. Firstly, you need to understand that how to create pivot table. To create a pivot table, I'll go to the first cell of the table and I press Ctrl Shift right arrow, and while I am pressing Ctrl Shift, I press down arrow. What this does is that this enables me to select entire data from my table, and I don't need to worry if there is any blank or spaces in between. By doing this method, I am confident that my entire data from cell 1 to the cell last has got selected. As a next step, what you need to do is, in the Insert tab, which is towards the right of Home, there is one section with the name of tables. And within this section, the first option is pivot table. You can click on the down arrow in the bottom of the pivot table, and here it gives two options. First is from table or range, and the other one is from external data source. For this demonstration, we are going to use table and range only because our data is within the same sheet where we are creating the pivot tables. For this demonstration purpose, I am going to select new worksheet. As soon as I clicked OK, you would observe that a new sheet has got created and it is automatically named sheet 4. Now, because we are going to make the pivot table for first objective on this tab, let me rename it by double clicking, and let me write objective 1 pivot. Let me show you that what do we see in the right section of the Excel. What you would observe is that when you have selected any cell or any portion within the pivot table, it is showing pivot table fields. However, if you select anywhere outside, the pivot table fields will disappear. The reason for that is because Excel gives you options only for your contextual data. Contextual data means whatever object you have selected, options related to only those objects would appear. So, as soon as I click anywhere in this box, the pivot table fields will appear, and you would also notice that at the top, Analyze and Design tabs have also appeared. What if this pivot table fields did not come up? In that case, you could go to Pivot Table Analyze. Within Show, the first option is Field List. So just in case this pivot table fields was not appearing in your case, you can simply go to Pivot Table Analyze, and from there you can select Field List. Now, first thing that you would observe is that it contains few boxes. Each box represents some section. First section is choose fields to add to report. And down below, we see all the columns which are there in our data. I'll just show you the data once again. And the columns which it contain are date format, state, region, product category, brand name, quantity, and sales revenue. Coming back to pivot, you would observe that these are the same fields which are there in my original data. Down below, there is another section which says drag fields between areas below. And there are 4 areas shown: filters, columns, rows, and values. As I showed you in the presentation, that there are no calculation required, and it's simple drag and drop feature which enables us to analyze the data. I'll show you how. Let's read the objective. It asks us to analyze revenue and quantity sold. Let us find revenue in the field. Here it is, sales revenue. I will just drag this and drop it in the values. As soon as I drop it, you would observe that the box which was blank with the pivot table name appearing in it now has values, and it says sum of sales revenue. Okay. The next thing which the objective asks is quantity of items sold. So similarly, I will bring quantity of items sold in the values as well. Let's read our objective once again. It says for different states and regions to identify high performing areas. Well, there are fields for states and regions as well. I'll simply bring states here. You see that for each state, revenue and quantity is appearing now. And I can bring the region as well below the states, so that it has created a structure that within each state, the region is of that state is coming. Now just observe this number, 1 crore 20 lakhs 48,000. What if I remove this region? To remove the region, I'll simply drag the region from the rows area and drop it back to the fields area. You'd observe that the number has not changed, only the formatting has changed. So there is no difference in calculation even if we drag a subsection of that number. So this 1 crore 20 lakh 48,000 still remains 1 crore 20 lakh 48,000, and within this, how much is the contribution of central, east, north, south and west? It is appearing here. There are different ways to look at this. For example, you might have wanted that the region should come first in hierarchy and then the state should have come. Well, in that case, you could simply drag the region and drop it above state. By doing this, what you would observe is that central region comes first and then their states are appearing. Similarly, east region and states, north region and states. Let's suppose I want to look at state wise only, and within state each region should come. So this is how it would look. The objective also says to identify high performing areas. Now what you would observe is that although it gives a region wise data, but it still does not identify high performing areas. Well, it could be done in different ways, and it could be identified that which area is performing high. Like you could apply a conditional formatting or any other feature as well. But since we are discussing pivot table, I'll just show you that how it can be done in pivot table. You need to ask your boss that, sir or ma'am, do you want to see the high performing areas by quantity or revenue? Let's suppose they say that they need high performing areas by revenue. So what we would do is that we would simply click on revenue, and based on if we want to do it basis the region, then we'll click on region, right click and sort data largest to smallest. What we would see is that the region which is performing the best has appeared at the top, and the region which is performing the worst has gone down at the bottom. Similarly, let's suppose if you want to see that which is the lowest performing state, in that case, you could right click the state number, sort smallest to largest, and the lowest performing state would come at the top and followed by other states. Important thing to notice here is that within this state, we still see that the regions down below are still sorted highest to lowest. So this gives me a very good information that which state and which region is performing well in terms of the revenue. Let us quickly go to objective 2 so that you would understand how to apply pivot once again. So coming to objective 2, the objective 2 is to evaluate how different brands contribute to quantity sold within each product category. To create a pivot, I would follow the same process. I'd select the data from top to bottom, first cell to last cell. Click on insert and select pivot table from table or range. We need to make sure that the table or range contains the entire range of our data. We'll create in the new worksheet and I'll rename it objective 2 pivot. Now let us read the objective once again. It says evaluate how different brands contribute to quantity sold within each product category. Well, first thing it asks us is for brands. So what we will do is we'll select brand name and bring it to the rows. Quite well, it has included all the brands which are there in this data. Read the objective again. It says different brands contribute to quantity sold within each product category. So the second section is quantity sold. Going back to objective 2, and we will take quantity sold in the values, and product category is also there. So we will bring product category into rows. What you would observe is that product category under each brand has come like this. This is similar to what we created in the previous pivot for objective 1. But there are different ways to look at your data. For example, right now my columns are not utilized. All the data is coming in my rows only. So I could drag this product category to columns, and what you would observe is that it is very beautiful view to see for each brand what is the product category and how much is the quantity sold for it. Similarly, you could drag product category in the rows and drag brand name in the columns to show that how each product category is appearing for each individual brand. Well, you could also format these numbers. I have added comma here for easy readability, and remove the decimal points because quantity would always be a whole number. And this is how the data appears. There are many more functions which you could do in pivot table. For example, applying percentage just to see that how much each brand is contributing to each product category. How we can do that is select any number here, right click, and it has an option for show value as. Currently, no calculation is selected here. That is the reason the numbers which are showing here, they are only the sum of quantities. Now what I will do is I will do show value as percentage of column total. What this has done is for IFB, Kenstar, LG, Samsung and Voltas, each of the brand has 100% of their sales, and how much is the contribution of each product category in their sales, that is what is reflecting here. Similarly, you could also do percentage of row total, and here what it is showing is that considering each product category as 100%, what is the contribution of each brand in that product category. So clearly you could see that the highest performing brand for home entertainment system is Samsung, because it's the highest percentage, which can be easily seen here. So this was a brief introduction of pivot table. Definitely there are many more options inside pivot table which can be used for our analysis, but I won't go into each and every feature in detail, otherwise this video will become very long, and also the details might not be relevant for your use. What I want you to do is to apply pivot table for your own analysis and come up with some objectives for your own self and try to meet those objectives. Please share your challenges or questions with me in the comments so that I can respond to you and clarify your doubts. Thank you so much for watching.